Hello, I'm horror cartoonist Dennis St. John. I draw monsters and write twisted tales. As you can imagine, I was a little obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Lucky for me, so were most of my high school friends, all except one. One friend who stubbornly refused to join the Scoobies. So here we all are, 20-some-odd years later. I'm teaming up with Doc Travis, John, Teach Landis, and maybe a special guest or two, and we're going to make our friend, Michael Poley, watch one episode of Buffy a week until he's no longer the Buffy Virgin. Welcome to Buffy Virgin, a spoiler-free Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast. Unfortunately, none of us can remember who we are because it's Season 6, Episode 8, Tabula Rasa, Tabula Rasa, Tabula Rasa. Make sure to subscribe to hear all the Buffy and Angel content and give us a rating. I am your host, cartoonist Dennis St. John, and we have special guest cartoonist Maia Kobabe.
Woo!
Maia, where can people see and buy your stuff?
Oh gosh, all over the internet. You can find me at Red Gold Sparks on Instagram or Tumblr, or Red Gold Sparks Press on Etsy, or you can find my book in actual stores. Well, not actual stores because those are closed, but in online stores like Barnes & Noble or IndieBound or, God forbid, Amazon.
And what's the name of your book?
Genderqueer, a memoir. Yes, I am a returning guest. My pronouns are EMAir, and I'm so excited to join for my third Buffy Virgin podcast episode. And I realized when watching this one, I was like, oh, I've chosen all episodes that are so Willow and Tara like focused. Not intentionally, but those just happen to be all my favorites.
Just out of love.
Just out of love.
Well, we're happy to have you back. And why don't the rest of you guys introduce yourself with who it says you are on your driver's license?
Yeah, pull it out and check. You never know.
Who am I?
My name's Travis, and shockingly, I'm wearing a red sweatshirt today, as opposed to a blue sweatshirt, which I wear continuously every Sunday. It appears, and I get made fun of by these great group of friends.
Laundry day.
How do you know it's your sweatshirt? Did you just find it on the ground? Maybe it belongs to someone else.
Maybe it's your older brother's sweatshirt.
My name's John Landis. I do not have a driver's license, so I think that means I'm nobody today. I've never had a driver's license. My state ID says my name is John, but driver's license, don't know.
Well, according to this, my name is Michael John Poley, and I live in Oregon, and I do the bidding of this framed picture of a monkey behind me. And yeah, please, everybody should buy Genderqueer and check it out. It's great. Maia's book is fantastic. I recommend it to people all the time, and it's a really interesting, incredible read. Really takes you through Maia's story, and so you feel really close to Maia, even though you rarely talk to him.
Thank you so much.
That is truly the power of autobiocomics.
Yes, indeed.
Everybody knows you now. So we're going to be talking Tabula Rasa, but before that, we're going to do reactions to Season 6, Episode 1, Bargaining Part 1.
Audience reactions.
And we're going to start with, over on YouTube, I Wanna Klitsch. Let's see. John, why don't you try to read this?
All right. I want to says Anthony Head training mode evolving. Right now, he's also training Bruce Wayne. Smiley face. I'm not sure I get that reference. Is he in some DC Universe thing?
Maybe. I don't know what's going on there.
But all right, cool. Don't get that reference. All right. And Allison Hannigan, end with the Kim Possible. Not sure what that's referring to either. Also, I'm glad I'm not the only person who thinks that Willow has always been bad. Even in the first seasons, she's had some weird moments. Like, she just doesn't understand how other people work when she probably knows how
their guts work.
She probably knows how their guts work. Interesting. Maybe it's something with Sunnydale and the Hellmouth that turns smart people into a crazy evil genius. Because it's not only Willow. She'll even stay longer in a good side. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Willow has been difficult and suspicious for a long time. I mean, the way I like Willow. I'm on Team Willow, but I think, the thing I keep coming back to is like she has the highest like IQ in the group and the lowest EQ.
Yeah. And our friend Garrett Thatcher says, why didn't Giles break Faith out of jail so they can have a Slayer operating? Watching you guys do accents, I can't wait till you guys try the Peaky Blinders Brummie accent. I've watched
so
the first
bad.
couple episodes of Peaky Blinders, actually, but I will not attempt the accent.
I like that that's presented as something that we'll inevitably do.
Like once you get in contact with an accent, it's like a disease, right? You have to. It has
There's
to exercise
nothing
through
wrong
your
with
body.
doing voices or accents at all.
We're just trying
I suppose,
our best. We're just
you know,
trying
there's
our
the-
best.
This is a weird place to take it, but there's the Borges concept of like, you know, if you really believe in immortality, then like on a long enough timeline, if you really have an immortal soul, then you will eventually do everything, and all men are everything. So he says all men are Gandhi, and all men are Hitler, or all men are Shakespeare, and all men are Hitler. Because if you live forever, eventually you'll do everything just by random chance. So if you live long enough, you'll do a podcast about every TV show. I think is what I'm taking from this.
I do not want immortality.
Oh, right, because that's the consequence of immortality is eternal TV
just
podcasts.
So many podcasts. Michael, why don't you read from Kape Nagoyi?
Thank you for pronouncing that correctly. No inconsistencies between Buffy's telepathic abilities and earshot, and Willow's in bargaining and the gift. Buffy reads minds but can't project her thoughts to others. Willow projects her thoughts, but as far as we see she is not reading anyone's mind.
I feel like that's nitpicky.
You're just setting this up. But yeah, we went through and talked about how we think the telepathy works. Telepathy, sorry.
Anya.
And Travis, why don't you read us what Silver Spike has to say this week?
Silver Spike says this week that we are so unbelievably nitpicky and they are disappointed.
Thank you, Silver Spike. We always appreciate it.
Wait, guys, he's like the dad of this podcast.
I don't know how we still find ways to disappoint you, but we do. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, so the last episode, as we record this, the last one I have heard and that has aired is the one we just heard response to, season 6, episode 1, which I really enjoyed. But the last episode that you recorded was Once More with Feeling, which is obviously probably the most highly anticipated episode of the show. And Michael and I share the experience of having watched that episode out of order before any of the previous episodes. So I just wanted to, was it really fun to record the podcast for it?
Yeah, it was super fun to record. It felt really special to like exercise that because I feel like this was building towards that forever. Like Travis bought me that record, the Mondo Records recording of the Buffy musical that came out recently. So this amazing red record to put on, and like so anticipation was high. I had that record unopened for 3 months because
It was like 9 months.
Oh yeah, well before Christmas. That's right. You were so excited about it. Like we hadn't even started season 6 yet, and you're like, dude. So the excitement was super high, and like I just felt a lot of the energy leave the room after the episode we finished because we had to. We watched a bunch of Angel afterwards, and people are like struggling to get through it because there's such an exciting momentum building to that musical episode. And then now, of course, we get to listen to the musical whenever we want, and it's lovely. I'm really enjoying that. But yeah, it was a blast to record with these guys. And we actually did it live, which was fun. We did it live on YouTube, and then we recorded afterwards. So we got to watch it multiple times.
Yeah, so we actually have
awesome.
We had 2 recordings of the episode, but one was a live version that is now gone. I felt like it was a hard episode to do just because there is so much anticipation for it. I was like kind of glad when it was over. I was like, all right, we can just move on with our lives now.
It's groundbreaking television.
That that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. I like everyone else, I love that episode. But I would say that this episode, Tabula Rasa, is my second favorite season 6 episode after Once More with Feeling. So that was like part of why I wanted to jump in on this one. And also like this episode is up there with Once More with Feeling as being one of my favorite episodes of actually the whole series.
Why don't we, now that we're talking about Tabula Rasa, listen to a summary of it.
The summary.
In Tabula Rasa, Tara confronts Willow about her excessive use of magic. Is Willow addicted to magic? Can you even get addicted? Willow pledges to, go a week without magic. Meanwhile, Giles tells Buffy he's leaving for England. Sorry, see ya. And Willow casts a spell to make everyone forget who they are. Everyone at the magic shop wakes up with no memory who they are. Buffy thinks she's Joan, but figures out quickly that Dawn is her sister, who's wearing a necklace that says Dawn. Giles and Anya wake up next to each other, and they believe they're running the magic shop together. Willow quickly discovers she is not into Xander, but might have something for Tara. Spike thinks his name is Randy and seems disappointed that he's also British. Suddenly, a loan shark appears, and it's time to fight or flee. Escaping from vampires in the sewer, Xander steps on a crystal, breaking the spell. Willow broke her promise, and Tara moves out. Spike finds Buffy at the Bronze, and at the end of the episode, they are making out. Big time.
So one thing that's amazing about this episode is just the sheer amount of great lines.
Oh,
like it was
so many.
really hard to like even pick and wheel it down. So why don't we do some of the great lines for this episode?
Great lines.
I love, oh God, there's so many, but I love Buffy as Joan saying, I think I know why Joan's the boss. I'm like a superhero or something. Like, that's just such a fun one. And then the whole back and forth between Spike and Buffy when they've been doing some fighting, and Spike says, I must be a noble vampire, a good guy on a mission of redemption. I help the helpless. I'm a vampire with a soul. And Buffy, again as Joan, goes, a vampire with a soul. Oh my God, how lame is that? And it's like, it's kind of meta. It breaks the fourth wall a little bit, but it's just so delightful.
He helps the helpless.
Yes, and then Spike has another one where he gives this whole little tiny mini speech about how it's very inspirational that he's overcome sort of his natural evil tendencies to do good. And he ends with, so much trust, no thought of me biting you, no thought of you staking me. And Buffy, as Joan, goes, depends on how long you keep yapping, which is just so good. And then the line just before Buffy's memory returns, she goes, I'm Joan the Vampire Slayer. And she almost sort of trails off as her memories return, which is just... Oof. Love it.
My favorite line, though, this watch through anyway, was when Giles he says something about something being a capital idea, and Anya, his pseudo fiance, says, "Capital? What capital? I never know what you're talking about. Lou, shag, brolly. What the hell is all that?" And Giles objects, and she says, "Bugger off, you brolly." Which I have to say, like the Brit speak discussions I've mentioned many times, my partner is English, I'm American, and so you would think that these kinds of debates and arguments over like whose words for things are better would have died off, but we're 7 years in and we still talk about it like every week.
Oh my gosh.
I'm constantly complaining about some like ridiculous word that she's using, and she's constantly complaining about some ridiculous word I'm using.
Hopefully
just doesn't
all in
go
good
away.
fun.
It is. I mean, it is, but it does get like, I mean, like, in like,
Heated,
so, like
right?
when we were living in America, it was, I think, harder for, it was harder for Harriet because she's, surrounded and you're like one against the entire world. And when I moved here, it became harder for me because it's, me against the whole world. But now that we're sort of on lockdown and it's just the two of us in the apartment, it's just sort of like
even playing field.
It's an even playing field. And so I've just decided that it's not a flat anymore.
It's an apartment.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
John, what does brolly mean? I didn't even look that up.
Yeah, that's what's so great about it. Brolly is just short for umbrella. Brolly is umbrella. And so when she says, shut up, you bugger off, you brolly, it's she's misusing the word, which is why the joke is funny. And then my second favorite line, which I always gets me, is when it's like a tense, horrible, emotional moment. Everybody's realizing that they're like, that sort of like moment when you wake up and you realize that like how, like what your life is like and it's difficult. And all of a sudden Xander starts laughing and he says, just get back my memory of seeing King Ralph. That is so great. That kills me every goddamn time.
I mean, John Goodman's funny.
Yeah, he is.
Man, that was a great line. I'm glad you included that one, John. I just like Giles, like he's figuring out what his new life is with Anya. And he says like, oh, we own the shop together. That's very progressive of me. Because he's like kind of surprised that he would share ownership, like that he would have this relationship. Like he's kind of a good old boy misogynist kind of personality. He's like suppressing this like natural misogyny, natural need to be in charge. It's awesome.
Yeah, I thought everything. Oh, they're all my favorite lines. I liked Spike when he says he's fighting with the shark, and he says, "I'll get you, kittens. I just need time. Time is what turns kittens into cats." And I just love that. It's so crazy. And then later on, Giles and Anya are in the shop, and she's casting all those spells to get rid of the bunnies. And then Giles is like, "Oh God, maybe we should try another book." "No, this book made those little fluffers, and it will send them back." And Anya's just so great with her crazy bunny thing. Oh, I like how she calls them fluffers.
Apparently, it's an instinctive part of her makeup that she's afraid of bunnies.
Oh yeah, you can't
Something
forget that.
I'm sure we'll get into.
That's a primal fear.
This is from Spike. "Oh, listen to Mary Poppins. He's got his crust all stiff and upper with his Nancy boy accent. You Englishmen are always so... Bloody hell. Sodding, blimey, shagging, knickers, bollocks. Oh no, I'm English. Welcome to the Nancy tribe." And then later from Spike also, when he finds out his name, "Randy Giles? Why don't you just call me Horny Giles? I'm desperate for a shag, Giles."
Oh, so good.
When Harriet and I first started dating, I sampled that scene and put it on the mixtape that I made for her.
Were you identifying yourself as Randy Giles at that point?
No, it was just there was a themed mixtape of UK versus US, and I found a bunch of songs that tied into it, and then I sampled that, and also the Sarah Vowell essay. Found the audiobook version of that Sarah Vowell essay where she talks about why you can't have an American Watcher on Buffy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So there are so many more great lines, but that's all we'll do right now, but more might populate throughout. But first, we're going to do the kill count.
The kill count.
Which I counted 6 vampires dusted and 1 relationship staked. And that's the coldest way I could say that. And now we'll move on to Weird Noticings and Trivia.
Weird Noticings.
My first thought here is I want to know how the kitten economy works, because kittens are a currency. And I do understand that, apparently they lose value when they become cats, because it's the implication of time is what turns kittens into cats. It's makes things rot and they're not useful anymore. But kittens breed, right? Eventually cats breed, and if I could put $2 bills together and get an extra dollar bill or a litter of them, I feel like the inflation would become a problem, right? So I feel like the kitten economy is not sustainable.
Well, yeah,
from an economic point of view.
As Buffy points out when she first hears about it, kittens are stupid money.
I mean, I assumed the suggestion was, so I'm assuming they eat these kittens, right? That's the implied, that maybe they in fact eat them at such a rate that there are not that many stray adult cats in Sunnydale, so that the kittens are actually scarcer than they are in other cities, is the only thing I can figure to make this have any sense to it.
I love that. Yes. Yes. If they're food, then totally, then they're scarce.
We haven't seen Kitty Fantastico in a little while.
Oh,
It's
boy.
true. It's been
Oh no, who gets the cat? Oh my gosh.
I mean, we know from Spike Gambling that Clem was kittens are delicious. We know that. But yes, how does this work? It's probably not worth exploring. But
It is funny though, and man, I love the loan shark so much.
it's such a crazy visual pun to have a loan shark be a shark, but you could get away with it.
Yeah, it totally works, and I had forgotten about this character until this rewatch, and when he came on, I was equally as delighted as the first time I ever saw it.
Oh man, I was. It's funny that that Xander's we need a book club, no, then a video club. We need to hang out. We need to spend time. I'm like, this guy's reaching for a podcast. He's not going to have access to that for another 15 years.
I bet Xander would be great on a podcast. He's funny and good at chatting. I would absolutely listen to a Xander podcast.
What would they
I feel
talk
like
about?
podcasts are already full of Xander types.
Yeah.
But what would their podcast be about? That's what I couldn't figure out. Just like a monster podcast where they...
Yeah, I mean, even if he just did like a recap of like the shenanigans of the week, or like basically like the kill count but expanded to a whole episode, but he was putting on air, and then all the listeners from other towns thought it was a joke. They thought it was like a Welcome to Night Vale or whatever, but it was just Xander just narrating his actual real life.
Oh my gosh, what a great fit, like fan podcast to put together. It would just be like, what if the Buffy, the Scooby Gang had a podcast, and just do an episode by episode like recap.
Oh God, yeah. If you like wrote some, especially if you did it from not Buffy's point of view, but like one of the characters that we don't see on screen all the time, and so then you can like write a whole B plot for them to be doing in their off-screen time.
Welcome to Sunnydale.
Like a Jonathan cast.
Yes, welcome to Sunnydale by Jonathan and Xander.
Oh, so
Dude.
fun.
So scooting forward, this skips a few scenes, but when they all wake up with no memory, everyone looks at their driver's license or school ID if they have one, but no one glances in like a mirror or a window to see if the picture on their ID card actually matches their actual face. And I assume that, they probably cut that for time, but also because if Spike were to look for a reflection, he would not see one, and that would maybe reveal to him earlier that he is not a human like everyone else in the room. So that was just someone from IMDb had pointed that out, and I thought it was a cool little comment.
That is interesting. I think it's funny that apparently we never learned Tara's last name because she doesn't read it. Everybody else is like, I'm Alexander Harris. She's just like, my name's Tara. School ID, no last name. I also think it's weird Buffy doesn't have a state ID. I get she probably doesn't have a driver's license, but John has a state ID.
I bet
she wasn't carrying it around.
I think she has one. She just didn't carry it. Buffy seems like the kind of person who would leave the house with nothing in her pockets because she'd just be like, I can take care of myself.
Things are probably going to be a little out of order for some of this stuff, but I loved seeing Tara stand up to Willow's magic abuse.
Yeah.
Like, Xander's talking about getting a book club together, video club, whatever. And then as soon as the opportunity to use magic comes in to solve a problem or whatever, and just seeing that fight brewing, and clearly it's the end of the relationship happening. And I loved it. It's totally, this has been coming for a while now, for quite a few episodes. Like once Willow did the memory spell on Tara to make their relationship better, to fix the problem. I mean, I don't know. It was really satisfying to see this happen, and they should be broken up. So that was just fantastic scene. And I like that, that Anya and Xander gave them the space to have the fight. I don't know why that was that was actually kind of them to do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually
in their flat.
Yeah.
In their own flat, yeah.
I know. And then so they sort of have the initial conversation right there, and then or maybe it's the same conversation, and then Willow starts kind of bargaining, right, and says oh, I'll go a month without magic. And I love that Tara says, let's go a week and see. That sort of counter offer seemed really compassionate and realistic. It was sad because you could tell by the way she said it, it was I don't think you can even go a week. But it also just in the moment felt like, I still care about you a lot as a person. I just don't have faith in you anymore. And so I really, it's a tough conversation, but it's a really good one.
I think the hardest thing for me listening to it is Willow still doesn't seem to see why what she did was a violation.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
No. She's shocked that it's called a violation, and it's you erased her mind.
Yeah.
Sorry,
right.
But it's
And when Tara makes it about hey, remember what Glory did to me? That when it's similar and is the same level of pain, emotional pain to cause someone.
Yeah.
It is shocking that Willow doesn't see it that way.
Also, this is a side silly thing, but multiple times in this episode, just because we're still coming down from the musical, there's lines that cue into the musical, when she says, when things get rough. And then, you just go to magic. And I keep going when things get rough, he.
Yeah.
Just hides behind his Buffy.
Buffy. Yes.
Whoa.
I know. And because also we cut directly from this Willow and Tara scene to Giles telling Buffy he's going to leave again, which exactly continues the thematic parallels of Giles and Tara's duet from the previous episode, right? That juxtaposing the two characters leaving. And I just Like, I love that. I love that because there's so many big emotions because of the musical, like that they then carry that into this non-musical episode, and like none of those threads are dropped. They're all carried on, and that is like so good, so satisfying.
Well, I'm shocked Giles is going through with leaving. I mean, after coming
does seem
back
wild.
to, I guess, be more responsible, be a father figure. It's just I thought he was going to continue to train Buffy, but it's just a weird situation for the show to be in because he left, he's coming back, and now it feels like he's going to leave for good, which I'm bummed about because I like Giles, but he hasn't had a place. We've talked about whether Giles should be on the show or not for a while, so like maybe he should have left in season 3, or 2. Mm-hmm. But it's just very sad, like to come back and then basically writes Buffy a check, to help cover some expenses, and then it's like, cool, I'm gonna move on with my life. Because he's basically created a monster killer and then is like, not my problem. Like he's trained up the warrior and then he's walking away from it. And like, I don't know. I mean, you assume that the relationship has to be permanent the way it's set up.
Yeah.
Like, how do you walk away from that responsibility?
I feel like if the show had given us like a reason why it was like been like if I think if it was the show wanted us to believe that it's what you're saying, Michael, that like Giles needs to have his own life and Giles needs to go back and live in his apartment in Bath and and be with Olivia or whatever it is that he's going to do, then I feel like that would be easier to buy and understand because that's a reason.
Yeah.
But like as it's stated, it's like it's because you won't be independent 2 weeks after you were raised from the dead and, like a month after your mother died, you won't be independent enough for my arbitrary bar of what that means.
Well,
it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I almost feel like the parallel between Giles leaving and Tara leaving Willow, like, is almost there in a way, like they put them together and it almost makes you accept the one because the other one makes so much sense. It almost makes you like feel like not question Giles as much, like because I feel like if my first watch through, I just kind of accepted Giles as leaving because Buffy needs to be strong. Sure, that makes sense, but it doesn't make any real sense at all.
Right, I love your point about the emotional gaslighting and how like we take one emotion and we'll just move right on to the next. We're like, yeah, it makes sense. You're right. Like, there's not a compelling reason for him to move on.
I mean, Giles is leaving because Anthony Stewart Head is leaving.
Yeah.
Well, this is
like,
TV.
The show needs to make the emotional connect. But it is hard. Like, he's a father figure leaving while his daughter figure is like going through an emotional crisis.
Really struggling. Yeah.
And to the credit of this episode, like Buffy voices these concerns that I have, where she's just like, this doesn't actually make any sense. And like, you don't want me to suffer. I'm done suffering. I also don't want to suffer. So why are you doing this? Like, Buffy does get to like actually put voice to those.
But for TV reasons, Giles and Tara have to leave to make way for new characters. So I'm curious what will happen next. Anyway, sorry.
Mike, why don't you say your next one there?
Oh, sure. Of course. Sorry. This comes up every now and again. But Spike's ability to walk around in the daytime is insane. He looks like Sherlock Holmes or whatever, like old school, just running in with his crazy hat and like heavy coat and like on fire. Let's assume on fire.
I feel like fashion has changed so much since then that, like, at the time that was like a mockingly nerdy outfit he's wearing, but now I'm like, he looks really cool.
Yeah. Oh, everything comes back around, right? Yeah, I did a little bit of digging on just the concept of amnesia episodes in TV, just because I was so curious if I could find out when was the first like single episode amnesia TV plot, but I was not able to find that information. One, I'm just not much of a TV viewer, so I don't have like a sense of when it would have been. And unfortunately, there's a TV show called Amnesia. So anytime you try to Google search things like first episode of Amnesia, you just get this 2013 show Amnesia. But TV Tropes does unsurprisingly have a solid page on Amnesia episodes, and it did list a lot of shows that have had them. I don't know that it's that interesting to read the list, but unsurprisingly, many sci-fi shows have featured it. So there's like some real standout Star Trek episodes. There's a Supernatural episode, Stargate Atlantis, sort of shows that you would expect. There was an Addams Family episode apparently with Amnesia. And the very first episode ever of The Twilight Zone was an Amnesia episode.
Oh, right. That's the Where did everybody go?
Yeah, it's called Where Is Everybody?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's movies too that do it, of course, but that's so I'm sure those are all in the recs and stuff.
I found I was also on Letterboxd earlier, and I found the longest list I found was one that had 66 entries of Amnesia movies. The earliest ones, there were 3 from 1942, none of which I had heard of, and then almost every year since then, basically.
Wow.
Popular trope.
It's one of those things that you think you need to worry more about, like Amnesia's gonna, for as much as it comes up.
Like quicksand.
Yeah. John Mulaney reference.
How about that Alan Funt reference?
Yeah, I had to Google this. Who is Alan? How many people got that without Googling it?
I had to Google it.
I had to Google too.
Nope.
Yeah, he was the host of Candid Camera, apparently, in its original iteration. Anya is old. She's 900 years old, so she has all those like deep cut references.
So Buffy names herself Joan, and I just want to point out Joan is now the 3rd Buffy persona, because we have Buffy, Anne, and Joan.
Oh.
And I don't know, they just keep adding up.
Interesting.
Who's your favorite?
I'm going to take the original.
Yeah, regular Buffy.
Classic.
Well, in the scene where they're in the magic shop and kind of discovering who they are, which is an amazing scene, like really fun acting. It's really a pleasurable scene. Dawn and Buffy discovering their sisters is great. Like the motions they go through to get to kind of insulting each other, and they've just kind of met or like woken up and known each other. It's so wonderful. Like they insult each other and they're like, "Oh, we're sisters!" Like, man, just a huge laugh from that. That was great. Because like I mean, I have a sister, and I just know how that felt very true. It felt very true about like how quickly we would annoy each other. It's great.
Yeah, it was delightful. I also love that scene. I had made a note of it in my watch notes too. Yeah, I always just really like when I'm watching an episode, especially of a show I've watched before, but then I've also like consumed a lot of media about it online, is when I find quote unquote a scene which has like become like almost like a classic scene. So the scene in which the Scooby Gang is in the magic shop and they open the door and there's all the vampires and they all just like scream and throw the door shut again. I feel like that scene has been gift a lot, and I think it maybe even ends up in the opening credits later on. So when that scene happened, I was like, oh, here it is. Like, here's that scene I've seen so many memes of. Like, so it was just like a little, for me, that's like a little hidden gem that I always enjoy.
Travis, I put this note in here for you. Did you notice that I freeze framed and read all the text on Giles's airplane ticket? But the most interesting thing is that he's flying out of LAX. So apparently there's not service, at least not affordable service from Sunnydale International to Heathrow.
And which is so surprising.
Because Sunnydale's got everything.
It's got everything. A zoo and, train station and, international terminal.
What do you think Giles does with his car?
You think it's already
sells
gone?
it?
There's a comment about Giles's car, the speculation that Giles's car is red and flashy and penis-shaped, which is hilarious because his last car that we've seen was a red BMW convertible. But I'm assuming he got rid of that when he moved back the first time.
Yeah, probably sold it, yeah.
I think he's still staying in the hotel and living without a car at this point.
It's no way to live.
God, I love seeing Buffy enjoy slaying again. That is one of the like most wonderful parts of this episode for me. It's just like Buffy has had such a rough time and has been so miserable like this whole season. And just watching her sort of delight in her calling is really nice. I loved that.
Well, this bunny spell, which gets out of control, is ridiculous. So, I mean, Anya and Giles together as a couple, love it. I love this unlikely couple, and like the way that Anya just asserts herself in that relationship is fun. And then like, we're going to solve this problem, I'll just start going through these spells, right? And then immediately creates a bigger problem for herself, which is adorable bunnies. Like there's probably more going on in this. Like, this is just my first watch of this, like what's happening in this relationship, because like there's a lot being argued about, and maybe it's nothing, but just the, more bunnies appearing and just her losing her mind. Like, this show has been playing with this idea for so long, and it pays off so well here just to see things go just completely nuts. I loved it. I mean, it's just a good laugh. Like, I don't, if there's more going on in the scene, please tell me, but this was just like hysterical, like LOL stuff. It was great.
I think it's just fun with bunnies.
I mean,
As the spell gets worse, Giles is fighting a Ray Harryhausen skeleton man. Little Jason and the Argonauts shout out there.
I mean, that's when you know things have gone to shit. I mean,
As if all the
Truly.
smoke wasn't a clue enough.
When Willow's figuring herself out down in the sewers, she's like, I think I'm kind of gay, which is a nice callback to Doppelgangland season 3.
I loved that, obviously. Again, I'm sure we're going to talk about this in Themes and Deep stuff, but like this show keeps calling up questions about like what parts of your personality are innate, and this is a really nice little like moment of that.
this is maybe a prediction. But like I was seeing Willow and Tara like get together in the sewer, like unlikely. I mean, I love what Maia just said about, you know, who you really are, like, you know, knowing who you really are. And that it's very sweet to think that relationships are predestined in some way, and that, you know, in any set of circumstances, these two would get together. So it's very sweet to see them almost get together.
Yeah.
But of course, if Willow gets the kiss, then, you know, she'll have learned that she can use magic to manipulate reality. So she can't get it. So it's very sweet to see it taken away. But like I don't know, it's a really lovely scene. Then the consequences come into play, and like that's kind of a fun part about this episode is like literally there's a consequence-free segment where there's a man with a shark head chasing around, rapidly generating bunnies, and like nonsense, you know, hiding from vampires in the sewer. And it's like, this feels like a season 1 episode or season 2 episode of the show. And then let me just drop the ball or step on this like crystal, and we're back in season 6.
I know.
Yeah.
God, the chemistry between Willow and Tara when they don't have their memories is like so magical to me. And I just remember the first time I watched it being like, oh my God, because I think they're almost a little bit more bold in their sort of flirting than they were when they actually met the first time. Like there's these little touches and there's these little glances, and it's just like, it's like you see they have like this spark is there when they don't have all this like bullshit that they have to worry about. And it's just like so delightful to see that. And then, the moment when Tara's face like falls when the crystal is broken and her memory returns, it just murders me. Like, that moment is so well acted, so well played. And like you said, it's so, the changing of emotional tone is just done so well. I love this episode. It's great.
I mean, to go from about to kiss someone to disgust, I mean, that's a pretty magical acting moment to pull off. And like to even have a moment in the show where that can happen. Love it.
And a much less emotional thing, just that Dawn calls Xander Alex.
I love that too.
This whole time he could have been going by Alex. He chose Xander.
I'm so bummed that Tara moves out at the end of this episode, right? Like, and it's got to be super expensive for her. She has less of a support system. You know, financially, that's got to be expensive. I mean, it's crazy. This is where your brain goes. So I'm just like, this got to be so expensive for her to move.
Well, I mean, this is a previous era. What year did this one come out?
2002.
It was like 2002. So we're slightly before the 2008 horrible financial crash, but still, it's like Willow is the one who has parents living in Sunnydale, like, right? Like, I mean, not that Willow wants to move back in with her parents, because I know she doesn't have the super best relationship with them, but like Tara has nowhere to go. Like Tara has no other friends in this town, and obviously no relationship with her family. Didn't pay for school dorms this semester, one assumes. Where's Tara gonna go?
Yeah. Thinking about what Tara's loan situation must be to be going through college. And the housing, and obviously no family support. It's like, so stressful. And also like really hurts to see, because like Dawn has to feel like at this point, Tara is probably the most motherly figure in her life.
Yeah.
You know, Buffy's kind of checked out. Willow doesn't really know how to do that. So like Tara is like totally the one stepping up. And,
and I would hazard a guess that Tara is the one who is most often being like, "Hey Dawn, did you have dinner yet?" Or like, you know, I don't know, just sort of checking in on really like household basics. Like probably not like helping her with her homework in high school, but like, you know what I mean? Just kind of like making sure there's like pizza in the fridge or whatever. Like,
No, it's a very good point. Like, who would you, put in charge of house sitting? Like, if you were going to leave for a while. Obviously, no, not Willow.
Tara for sure would be my first choice.
Mickey Mouse
Mike,
situation.
You can leave Dawn. Dawn can stay home alone in her house by herself for at least half
30
an hour.
minutes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
But like, I don't. It's just like that. Obviously, Dawn is really hurt, and like Dawn's
Doesn't
still
even wanna
a
say
young
goodbye.
teenager, and she doesn't.
Yeah.
She's not gonna be like, I get you're doing what you have to do. She's just,
Right. She's gonna be like, you two are abandoning me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much do you think Dawn knows about why Tara's leaving? Do you think she knows the whole memory, everything?
I mean, she knows that they fought about magic.
Yeah. And obviously she just experienced this memory loss as well, which she knows that Willow... So I don't know, she might not know about the first memory loss situation in Once More with Feeling, but she now knows about this one from this episode, so... But maybe she probably was like, doesn't see it as that bad because she didn't really suffer in this
like,
experience.
her whole life is just memory implants. So
That's true. That's very true. And
what's
also,
the difference, really?
There's even that comment she makes when they're in the sewers where she's talking to, is it Tara? And she goes, this is stressful, but in a weird way, familiar. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is just her life. God, Allison Hannigan is such a good crier. Like, when she's sad at the end, it's so sad. And one of the layers of sadness of it is knowing that she has no sort of like understanding of why this is happening and that it's mostly her fault. Like, she is devastated, but she's not like remorseful. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that shows like when, she uses a magic to get dressed in the morning when she literally has just promised tearfully like the day before to not use magic for a week. But anyway, just seeing Allison Hannigan cry is tugs my heartstrings, and it reminds me of comments they've made multiple times in the Buffering podcast, and I think you guys have said it here too, is the fastest way to tug on the emotions of the audience of this show is to hurt or threaten Willow.
Yeah.
And
I
show
think
sad Willow.
Joss Whedon's even said that in commentary tracks.
Yeah.
It's like an emotional cheat code.
Yes, it is. It works. I drew fan art of crying Willow, and I will put that online somewhere when this episode comes out.
Nice, yeah.
So yeah, we're getting here towards the end of this. I looked up I just also looked this episode up on Wikipedia, and the final musical performance for the last scene that's in the bronze is Michelle Branch singing Goodbye to You. And apparently, I know the name Michelle Branch, but I'm not super familiar. But apparently at the time, she was one of the most famous musical guests the series had ever had. She was like a really high profile person for them to get. And I do think there was a really good match for this episode, this song.
Yeah, the song really works. Yeah, Michelle Branch, I had to look her up to really get who she was too. But then I like watched a couple of music videos on YouTube, and I realized like I've heard her on like so many Muzak tracks at jobs I've had from that era.
It really made me feel like this is more of a callback to like a season 1 or 2 episode where it like it's about
we haven't had a proper bronze performance.
Yeah, it's a bronze
like
performance
to set the emotional tone of an episode. Like
how many early season episodes ended with a bronze performance and Buffy making out with a vampire at the bronze?
Totally. Yeah.
Although
it's
now that
definitely
the
a
bronze
throwback.
has been like redone, the lighting is all different, so they're making out in like bright lights instead of dark corners. But whatever.
Something else weird about the bronze is, did you notice how solo cup crazy the bronze is? I mean, this happened before, but like, so I put a screenshot down there at the bottom. Is that like, so at the bar, there's just like stacks of solo cups, and then like, if you look at the waitress in the background there, it's kind of hard to make out, but the waitress is serving somebody like she has a tray to bring to a table, and it's about 4 or 5 solo cups with presumably like a beverage inside, and then also a stack of like 8 extra solo cups. It's just like bringing like a dozens of solo cups to a table. It's not like there's a pitcher to fill them up. It's just she's serving them solo cups.
Well, that's
really
how,
Like, what's going on there?
They've really transitioned into like they're no longer even a bar; they're just a college party.
Oh yeah, just again for Travis, I'm looking up for those airline noticings, and I'm noticing that Giles gets the middle seat on his long haul flight from California to the UK. That's like a 10-hour flight. He's in the middle seat. That fucking sucks, dude.
What this really says to me is Giles is a cheapskate. Like, we know he's got the money.
Oh, yeah. It's the only justice this show shows to Giles.
He just doesn't care at all for his own comfort.
He probably
He's so cheap.
chose it to make himself suffer. Like, he's like, I don't deserve a good seat. I am leaving my charge behind.
Middle seats. I mean, it's bad. I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't get triggered by the middle seat.
I didn't notice.
10-hour flight, though, middle seat's going to be difficult. I mean, I have never, ever in my life paid for an upgrade to an airline ticket and never will. But so I would have been in the same situation. But middle seat, man. Whew.
He does have long legs.
Sad.
Well, I love the Spike and Buffy hookup at the end of this episode. It feels well deserved. I mean, I like this kind of, you know, to hook up with Spike, you have to have a nihilistic outlook on the future, which Buffy does. And like, I love even the way it's cut, where it looks like she rejects him, and then the camera goes like creeping through the bronze, and they're making out. Like, oh, I love it because it's such a nice little trick visually to do that, and it's totally fooled. I was like, oh, I guess they're not going to hook. I mean, because I totally thought it was moving in that direction after their delightful romp as Randy and Joan, you know, whatever this is. Yeah, it was kind of sweet. This is the dark timeline, but you know, I still felt good to know that, you know, she was finding something to hold on to. I mean, it's got to be such a dark period here, especially with Giles gone. I mean, Giles has to be gone for this relationship to happen, period, because Giles hates Spike so much. And then Willow and Tara have to be broken up because Willow would hate this relationship to happen too. So you have to really have like all the adults or people that pretend to be adults have to be out of the room for this relationship to happen. But it was still sweet to see.
Let's do questions for the group.
Questions for the group.
Oh wait, I made a joke
sorry.
that I said that this was the best season 2 or season 3 episode ever.
Truly, yeah.
High five. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so Willow, she uses magic in the morning to get dressed and ready for the day. I'm curious for people on the podcast, what part of your routine would you choose to magic away?
This is an interesting time now that we're all.
Yeah, that's true. Now when your
destroyed.
routine is really weird.
What's weird now, because we record at 9. That's the same time I am at work. I have to get into work on the weekdays, but I work from home now, and I don't really have to be like now Sundays is the time I get up earliest. And have my coffee the earliest. Like I get the earliest. So today I would have really just magicked away even waking up. Just like I'll already be here. I don't even waking up is the hardest for me.
Yeah.
I would magic away sleep. I would like to be able to fall asleep instantly.
Oh, falling asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my answer is also sleep related. I always kind of wanted a Harry Potter style time turner so that I could sleep extra hours. I would not use it to get more daytime hours. I would just use it so I could go to bed as late as I wanted, but still get 8 hours of sleep and then wake up early in the morning.
Yeah, that's real.
Because, like, for example, last night I was up until 3 a.m. watching an online K-pop concert that was at a more normal time in Korea. And then again, like Dennis, this is the earliest I've gotten up in 3 or 4 weeks, probably. So I only got 5 hours of sleep, and had I magic, I would have snuck 8 hours into that 5-hour gap.
Gosh, this is so tough. I mean, I think I want to magic away just my like dishes. Is that a waste of my magic?
No, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
I feel like, honestly, magic is best when you do use it for small stuff. Like, as we've seen, trying to cast a resurrection spell is a bad idea. But I think you can get away with things like dishes. Like, you're probably not going to disrupt the natural order of, like, magic flow in the universe by just, like, chores.
Would you want like just the dishes to be automatically clean, or do you want like a Fantasia style like process where like
Obviously.
the brooms come to life, or do you just want it all done? I want the theatrical Fantasia type thing, I think.
Yeah, like the best part of having a Roomba is watching the Roomba. I think it's similar. Yeah.
It's
So then on a completely drastically different note, here's another question. Have you ever tried to keep a relationship together? And feel free to not answer this if it's too personal. Have you ever tried to keep a relationship together with an ultimatum? Because it just seems to me that Willow's like, Willow and Tara's like, oh yeah, maybe we'll stay together if you can go a week without magic. Seems like when you're at the point of like a test past which you'll keep the relationship together, once you've given the test, that's the point. The relationship's already over at that point.
Yeah.
It would seem to me. But I don't know. I've never had a breakup that really went this way before, so I don't know.
I will defend Tara's ultimatum that she did not come at this with that. That was her.
Yeah.
That was a negotiation. She was like,
True.
"This isn't going to work out."
Yeah.
And ultimately, the ultimatum, like, doesn't even fix the major part of the relationship issue, which is the like mind abuse, right?
Right.
Yeah. And just like broken trust. I have no personal experience with this.
Yeah, I haven't issued any ultimatums, but I'm sure I've been on the receiving end of an ultimatum, and they don't work. I mean, nothing really works for relationships, but ultimatums are not like an X factor. I mean, just nothing works.
I know I've tried to negotiate to get an ultimatum, but ultimately the relationship was doomed. But like, I think I've been in I'm assuming just like Willow, where I'm like, oh, surely we can make this work. So I'm sure if an ultimatum could have been offered, I would have been very excited to accept.
Yeah, the ultimatum
whatever.
probably makes more sense from the dumb bees point of view, because you're like, well, surely since everything is ultimately about my failures, if I can only come up with something to succeed at, this won't happen.
Right.
I definitely relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, when you get broken up with, it's like you don't even understand the other person's point of view at that point. You can't even. You're like, well, what if we did? And they're like, no, I cannot negotiate. There's no negotiation, because that's where you get the ultimatum, right? Where it's like it's the more fickle kind of decision making. Like if Tara had at least even one friend, she wouldn't even have done the negotiation. She has no friend to discuss this with, as far as I know.
I do feel like, having been on both sides of, I've been broken up with, and I've done the breaking. And like, when you're being broken up with, you are like, all right, we got to negotiate. Like, let's go to a restaurant and like hash this out, or like whatever. And then when you are
Great,
breaking
let's
up,
do it
you're
in
like, no,
public.
the breaking up is happening. Like, we're having
Yeah.
this conversation because it's over, not because it's.
Right. No, we'll all have each other's exes on the podcast, and then you'll have to be off that episode, Dennis, and we'll get to the
We will
bottom of
just
this.
talk about you. Okay, so maybe I should sneak this into my recommendations section, but I know a podcast that has done episodes of that, basically.
Whoa.
They were actually fun to listen to.
One of the things I thought about adding to this doc last night and ultimately decided not to, but now I'm bringing it up because it reminds me of, I was going to be like, with the Joan and Anne thing, I was going to be like, F, marry, kill, Buffy, Anne, Joan.
No! No! Okay, but
And then
the honest answer is that all of them would kill you.
But I realized like, well, like Anne's really depressed, and that's historically been the type of girl I go out with.
Whoa.
So I was like,
Did you guys ever think that that Joan is like an amalgamation of Joyce and Anne?
yeah.
No,
I feel like
did
there's
not
a-
think about that.
There's definitely a Joyce thing in the Joan. I've thought about
I just
that.
went Joan of Arc, right?
Same,
Like a
I
heroic,
went Joan of Arc. Yeah, like this pure sort of like hero impulse.
Yeah.
That when Buffy is not mixed with worldly troubles, that she's just this sort of pure Gryffindor-y, like swords out, like let's fight the bad guys.
And she will
kind of-
walk through the fire.
She will walk through the fire. Yes. Yeah. If we're bringing up random shit, then yeah. So the podcast, the podcast that I mentioned is it's Just Between Us, which is hosted by Gabby Dunn and Allison Raskin, a comedy duo, YouTubers and also TV writers from Los Angeles. And Gabby is poly and is very open about being poly, and so has had 2 or 3 exes on, and also her current partner on the show. And one of her exes is a head editor at Boom Studios. So it's interesting. There's a little comics connection there as well.
Small world.
It is a small world. But yeah, they have a fun episode where they talk about like when they first met, and then the 2 people that they were both dating other than each other at the same time, and how those people felt about them starting to date. And then I don't know that they really get into why they broke up, but it's a definitely good, like, we're exes who are still friends, and we both find this story fun to tell.
Well, you have another question
Yeah, this
here.
is, I don't know how serious a question this is, but I was just like, have we seen Anya? I mean, obviously we know as viewers that Anya is a former vengeance demon, but Anya in this episode does not know that. And
Or
she
Anya.
casts Anya. She casts magic spells. And I was just like, I couldn't remember, can anyone in the Buffy universe cast spells if they have a real spell book?
There is precedent for that. When
Okay.
Xander, he's like, magic's not that easy. You can't just, not like you can just say Librum Incendiae, and then the book catches on fire in front of him.
Okay, so basically, if you
Xander
do
don't speak
have,
Latin around the books.
that's I've forgotten about that scene. That's such a good scene. So basically, if you have legit magic words, basically anyone can say them, and they will be to some level of effective. Though maybe not everyone can do like a resurrection spell.
Seems to be.
All right,
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
The way Xander frames it is like you need a level of concentration.
Okay.
So, but we have seen Anya cast, what her meeting Willow in Doppelgangland was getting Willow to cast a spell with her.
Plus,
They
we
were
know she turned her
working together.
ex-husband into a troll.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a spell as well.
It's interesting to me that she's like, oh, I own a magic shop, therefore I must be able to do magic. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I, in an Amnesia situation, would make that logical leap. But she's just
Magic.
like,
That's all.
I own a magic shop.
Balderdash and chicanery.
Exactly. Like, Giles seems to not believe it, but Anya's like, I will just pull this book down and cast some goddamn spells.
Yeah, if they had like woken up in like a helicopter hangar, she would have been like, I'm a pilot!
Oh, no. Oh, God.
I assume that flying is mostly instincts.
It's okay. She can steer by gesturing emphatically.
Deep stuff.
And I felt like, you wrote these things and I was like, I don't have to write anything now.
Yeah. I'll just read. You're good. I'll just read what I wrote here then. So obviously, most of the big themes that come up for me in this episode are questions about which parts of our characters are innate, what pieces of our personality cannot be wiped away, even when all context and memory is removed. And I do really like a lot of what this episode has to say about that. We see, which we've already mentioned, Buffy having these sisterly feelings towards Dawn, that she is still brave, that she's still willing to defend people, and also that she still makes quips. I love that her quippiness, lasts through, all these lines that we loved when she's Joan. And I'm like, I guess that's just part of Buffy's DNA, is to make snarky remarks. But there are pieces of it to me that make a little bit less sense, which is why these people seem to remember some pop culture references, like the Alan Funt reference, or at one point they start singing that little nursery rhyme song about the ants go marching on. And I'm like, why? I don't know. It's just why do you remember things like TV personalities and nursery rhymes when you don't remember who you are? And I mean, I know memory is very mysterious, but I know some of those are played for laughs, but I did really like the questions that this episode brought up about character and personality and memory and such.
Yeah, the term tabula rasa is Latin, and it means blank slate, right? Mm-hmm. I only did a very cursory Google look at it, but I guess it's it's a theoretical idea about whether people have ingrained personalities or not. And the writer of this episode, whoever it is, I forgot to look him out, did a really good job. But they came at it with the argument of who you are is intrinsic, separate from your memories.
For sure.
But until we really can erase people's memories properly, it's only going to be theoretical.
Well, Dr. Travis, I'm curious if there anything about this that you know about real amnesia that might come about in real life. Is it anything like what we see in the episode?
Well, you have anterograde amnesia and retrograde amnesia. So you can have amnesia going back in time or forward in time.
Wait, don't we all have amnesia going forward in time? I can't remember what happens tomorrow. Can you?
Quote, you can't
The
form new memories.
Oh, right.
This is a memento disorder, right?
Right.
The memento disorder is the anterograde amnesia.
Gotcha.
Then you have other medical conditions one called dementia, And that often will just affect short-term memory, but leave a lot, depending on the level of dementia, long-term memories intact. So people can remember where they were born, their childhood, father, mother, but have difficulty, and it's all on a range of problems with memory. So I haven't seen one where, I can say people with memory problems, depending on the type, can oftentimes be very sweet, nice, pleasant, and they may not know who their son or daughter is, and but they're still kind of their personality to a large extent. So yes, you can have things that affect your memory, but you seem to act like how mom or dad always did. But other times, when you lose your memory, it can also come with behavioral changes that are unlike the person before the event. So that also can happen.
I love how challenging, and weird it is that, if you're waking up next to someone, and you have amnesia, you might end up in a relationship with them. Just because, humans are somewhat compatible anyway. There's just a general, blanket level compatibility. So, I like how they kind of play with that idea, because that's startling to me that Anya and Giles would end up together.
Giles, because their heads are leaning on each shoulders, and then almost Willow and Xander, because Willow's wearing Xander's coat.
It's interesting, though, that they don't have enough chemistry to make that work after all these years. Turns out they just never had the chemistry.
Well, that could have just taken 2 seasons for them to figure it out. Instead, it's instantaneous, which is great. They didn't waste time with that idea. Because, I don't know, because the idea of relationships, people are destined for each other, which they play with in this episode, I think, with Tara and Willow's relationship, that's inevitable. That's destiny. But then Anya and, Giles, that was never going to happen. But now it's sort of, maybe it's happening. It's just this broken, distorted relationship. This spell, if, was never undone, could have just caused a lot of pain for both of them to figure out this broken.
They would have assumed they were on the way to a divorce or something.
Yeah. Giles stays in Sunnydale for longer just to make this fake relationship work. That'd be rough.
There's all these signs that they shouldn't be together, but they're not listening to them because they woke up next to each other.
I think it's just the general question of personally, are you or are you your memories? If you had your memories erased, would you go through the same routine? Would you would I discover comics again? I'd get into comics again, or would I not be artistic? I don't know. Is it, those kind of larger.
Or would you even forget that you knew how to draw? Or would you at one point pick up a pen and someone's draw something? And you're I can't draw. And then you do, and you're wait, I'm good at drawing. When did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
A way more boring version of the Bourne Identity.
Oh my God.
You have to pick a point in time where you erase up. You
boring identity.
And it's
Sorry,
when Bourne is I could tell, this guy knows how to fight or whatever. I'd be I could tell that guy's got a funny face. It'd be good to
He'd be good to caricature. Oh my God.
But in reality,
right. You'd think you're a caricature artist.
Oh, right.
Oh God.
Based on
you
this
have to erase
shirt, I'm clearly a funny guy.
Would you look at yourself and be oh man, maybe I'm a stand-up comedian. Maybe I'm a film collector. I don't know, whatever. If you look at the paraphernalia of your house, what would you, if you woke up right where you are right now and looked around, what would you assume about yourself?
Oh God. I have a lizard. I like monsters a lot. And there's comic
it's all
drawings
D&D
right there.
stuff and photography stuff. I'd assume I'd do some kind of.
I've really built my rooms to be able to tell me who I am in a moment.
Yeah, same.
Amnesia proof.
Yeah, isn't it?
Amnesia-proof rooms.
I think I was more into jazz than I am.
I
got all this New Orleans paraphernalia around.
I think if I looked around my room, I would know that I loved reading, that I loved books, that I was into fantasy, sci-fi, comics, art, but I don't know that I would have any sense of how old I was.
Oh, totally.
I think I would probably think I was ex-Amish, and then until I wandered into my room that had my degrees and diplomas, then I'd be like, oh, I get what's going on. But the room I'm in now has no diplomas like that or anything.
That would actually probably be quite comforting to walk in and see like, oh, I have all these certifications. Like, whew. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I think this is a great episode, and I do love that an episode that is so funny and so silly can inspire like these various sort of deeper thoughts. Again, it's just vintage classic Buffy. It's what I love from Buffy. When I finished watching this episode, I wanted to watch another episode, which is like, I feel like that's when Buffy is like good, is when you watch it and you're like, I want more of that.
And that's the burden we have with this podcast, is you can't watch the next episode.
No.
You gotta wait a week.
Well, who chose that as their life for so long?
Can't complain about it. We chose it. Maya, why don't you say again where people can find your stuff?
Oh yeah,
And
people can find it online. Pretty much my handle is Red Gold Sparks pretty much everywhere. And you can find that Instagram, Tumblr, Etsy is Red Gold Sparks Press. Website is Red Gold Sparks Press. Cheers.
Cool, thank you. Now we'll do recommendations and stuff. I just wanted to throw in a
little, yeah, in case we forget at the end.
Yeah.
I have a couple recommendations as well.
Recommendations.
So like last time, all of my recommendations are books. I'll hold them up to the camera for anyone who's watching on YouTube. So my first one is a sci-fi fantasy sort of fusion novel called Nine Princes in Amber. It's by Roger Zelazny, who is a wonderful writer who has passed away now, but who was friends with Neil Gaiman and wrote probably 100 very slim kind of classic sci-fi stories. This one wakes up with a main character who has amnesia, which is obviously why I picked it. He wakes up in kind of what seems to be like a hospital-ish room, but with no signifiers. So he's wearing just like a hospital slip. He has no wallet, no idea, no clothes. And there are doctors that come in that say he's had an accident and want to give him medications. And he quickly is like, I don't trust that this isn't actually a doctor. I don't know that I'm actually in a hospital and I have to get out of here. And he very quickly escapes this hospital and has to completely go on nothing. He has no money. He has no car. He has nothing. And this is, I would say, the smartest, most fun, most engaging version of Guy Wakes Up with No Memories story that I've maybe ever read, because the character is so resourceful and clever, and he very quickly realizes, so slight spoilers, that he is one of this extended royal family that lives in an alternate version of Earth, and that he has around, I think, of 12-ish siblings, and all of them are jockeying for a throne, and probably one of them is responsible for his memory loss, and one or more of them are probably trying to kill him. So he really has to think on his feet, and it's really fun. You can read this as a standalone, or it's also the beginning of a series, but I think it's satisfying by itself. And then I know that last time I was on, which was for a werewolf episode, I recommended a short story by Lois McMaster-Bujold, one of my favorite sci-fi authors, and she also has 2 books in her Costigan series, which both deal with memory. Mirror Dance is one where the main character experiences a cryogenic freeze and then some memory loss, which it fades, but is a big part in the middle of the book. And then Memory itself is a book as a story about a character who has had a lot of cybergenic implants in his head and then starts getting what seem to be hallucinations and then maybe are phantom memories from a life that was either repressed or maybe not his own or maybe his own. It's very confusing, but it's really good. So a bunch of memory-based sci-fi.
Those all sound good. John, what Star Trek episodes should we watch?
For Next Generation, definitely the episode Conundrum. That's the episode that is most like this, where everybody has their memories zonked, and immediately Commander Riker and Ensign Ro start making out. And then there's also the episodes Clues, Transfigurations, and Thine Own Self, which are also Amnesia episodes that maybe don't fit quite as well. And then also, once you're done watching all that Star Trek, you should definitely watch King Ralph.
Yeah, I feel like King Ralph kind of underrated.
So I guess my recommendation is Michelle Branch. So unlike these fools, Michelle Branch was very, very popular. She was easy. I'm a huge Michelle Branch fan, so I have all of her CDs. And so she was a very popular. That was her debut album. She had an EP before that, but the song featured in the episode was from her debut album, The Spirit Room. So she made 2 albums that were with her major label, The Spirit Room and Hotel Paper. Then she joined up with a country artist called Jessica Harp, who had a self-produced EP before she met Michelle. They formed a group called The Wreckers. They have one studio album. They had one studio album and one live album. They eventually went their separate ways, but no bad feelings as far as I can tell. Then Michelle Branch released an EP called Everything Comes and Goes. And then she signed with a new label, released one album called Hopeless Romantic, which is her last album so far. And then she left that label. And Jessica Harp, who's one half of The Wreckers, she has an independent album from 2002 that you cannot buy, self-produced, and it's not available for sale, really. Then she had a commercial album released in around 2009, 2010. And then she apparently retired from the music industry. So if you like the song featured here, you can pick up 4 albums from Michelle Branch, 1 album from Jessica Harp, because more of a country style, and then 2 albums from The Wreckers, their studio, and then their live album. And they're all great albums. So that's my recommendation.
Excellent.
I didn't get too deep with recommendations this week because they're, like Maia pointed out, there are like a million memory loss movies. I don't know why I did this, but I recommend Overboard, the 87 comedy classic with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. I just always love Kurt Russell. And I felt like this movie really asked the question of, like, if you have a blank slate, who are you? And Kurt Russell decides that Goldie Hawn could become his wife. I mean, it's silly. I feel like when we were kids, this movie was on TV constantly.
It's on TV all the time, yeah.
And, like, that movie, you don't... I feel like it doesn't exist anymore. But it was, like, just a constant from our childhood. And I know I've recommended both Dark City and Mulholland Drive before, but they both deal with memory in interesting ways. Dark City specifically asks the question of, like, are you your memories, or is there something intrinsic to you? And the aliens in the movie play with the human mind over and over again to try to discover that. And Mulholland Drive obviously opens with a car crash in Amnesia, and then only gets more amnesia from there. And the question of who, if you are in fact yourself, is a large question of it.
I want to say I briefly mentioned Memento as a movie during the episode, but didn't recommend it. Memento is a fun movie, but don't expect to have a satisfying end to that movie, but enjoy it for what it is. Well, enjoy the roller coaster ride, but don't sit down thinking you're going to have a really great end to a movie.
I'm reminded of a video game. I wouldn't recommend it, but Phantasy Star 2, because when you save the game in that one, which is kind of weird, you actually save your character's memories in a bank, like a memory bank. And then when they die, you have to go back and they basically put the memories into another, like a shell body. And like for a video game, like just getting around the idea of saving and moving around, this like freaked me out as a kid. The idea that when my characters died, I was like some shell was being implanted with their memories, like, or grown to the specifications. Like that freaked me out. Because apparently they're completely the same, of course, as before.
Yeah. Because there's no such thing as a soul.
Somewhere there's like a warehouse full of like zombie Marios just waiting to be activated.
Right. How do you deal with the idea? In video games, right? Like with the main characters constantly resurrected. Bad guys never resurrected.
Unless they're Goombas. Let's do predictions.
Virgin predictions.
Predictions! Okay, Michael, your current scores. You are at a 62.72% accuracy for Buffy as a whole, and a 65.52% accuracy looking just at season 6. So there's a little bit to talk about here today. As always, Dennis, if you see one I missed, please shout it out, or anyone else.
All right. I had a hard time dealing with their color coding right now.
Sorry, they're all green. This episode is green.
Okay. I highlighted one. I think I highlighted green.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So going way the F back to season 1, episode 2. Michael predicted that Willow and Xander will become an item. Now, there's just a moment where they kind of, maybe? Does that count? Okay, Travis says no.
I mean, the fact that we haven't, they've made out before in the show, and the fact that we confirmed it means we at some point made a decision that didn't count.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Just thought I'd bring it up. Okay.
You know, these prediction lists are a lot like not having a memory, and you just have to go by like.
It's true. Okay, season 4, episode 18, Michael predicted that this show will have a monster from Greek mythology. Now, there's a moment here where Giles, as Dennis pointed out, is fighting with a skeleton that is very clearly a reference to Jason and the Argonauts. The Ray Harryhausen film. So does it count as a monster from Greek mythology if it's a monster from a film based on Greek mythology?
I would love to just deny this just for the sake of a denial, but I feel
it's not a denial. It'd be open. It would be a kind of confirmation.
I think keep it open. I feel like that's not close enough.
I feel like
Dennis brought up organically the reference.
So based on the argument that I brought it up, I have to confirm it. Sure, fine. I'll argue. I'll say nobody but the Greeks would come up with skeletons.
It's such a generic like trope. I don't know. I mean, at least from Dungeons and Dragons, it is. You're always fighting skeletons.
What do we think? Okay, so it sounds like Travis is voting confirm.
I'll be on board.
Yeah, Dennis.
No, this is just a skeleton.
Okay, Maya.
Oh man, trying to be the tiebreaker. I want to give it to you, Michael, but to me it kind of, I didn't get that Jason and the Argonauts reference, so to me it was just a skeleton, kind of D&D style. But there's still a season and a half to go. I feel like Greek mythology could yet come up.
Okay, moving on.
Leave it open.
Okay. This is interesting. Season 5, episode 5, Michael predicted that Buffy will lose her Dawn memories, meaning that she will lose the memories of growing up with Dawn that were implanted by the monks. She presumably lost them along with everything else.
Yeah, she lost her Dawn memories.
So that's confirmed.
This is an incidental confirm.
Yes, I accept this. This one's so
Mike,
good.
do not repredict that. Just don't repredict that. Don't double down.
Okay, that's confirmed. Season 5, episode 11, Michael predicted that Willow will screw up another spell. I'd say that this is definitely confirmed.
Yeah. What's amazing about it is like she's such a good witch now, like she's beyond the point of like accidental like little mix-ups.
But I mean,
except for
it's
leaving
like a monumental fuck up.
leaving the bag of flour. It's because I haven't watched this episode in so long. When Willow left the bag of the flowers on the like so close to the fireplace, I wrote it down like, why did she leave that there? Because I thought Tara could just walk back in and see those morning flowers sitting right next to the fireplace. What are you doing? And then when they caught fire, I was like, oh, that's why they got left there. But it was like, I was like, what are you doing? Don't leave flammable stuff next to this fire.
It's alarming she has a whole bag of memory flowers also.
Yes, it
like,
is.
She's buying in bulk, man.
Yikes. But yeah, this is definitely a spell mess up.
This one's interesting. Okay, so season 5, episode 19, Michael predicted that Willow will cast a spell to forget Tara. Now, what's interesting here is that Willow casts a spell to make Tara forget, the result of which is that Willow forgets Tara, among other things. But I don't think we can quite confirm this one as much as I'd like to, because she didn't cast the spell, because the word to, I think, implies with the intention of. So she didn't cast the spell with the intention of forgetting Tara. Therefore, she did not cast the spell to forget Tara.
I want to argue with on this based on that prediction that you just confirmed about the Dawn memories, which is I feel like we with that one was like Buffy lost her memories of Dawn and we gave it to Michael. I would give this one also, in my opinion. It's also an incidental, but
if the prediction had said Willow will cast a spell that causes her to forget Tara, that would be
oh, you
a lot.
lawyers.
But
It only comes out in this segment.
It's the literal interpretation of the law. So
She cast the spell
I agree with John.
forget
this is a no-go.
Yeah.
This is a no-go.
I tried,
it's
Michael.
the letter
I
of the law.
tried.
Thank you, Maya.
I would have given you this one.
Okay. All right. Season 6, episode 5. Giles will disappoint Buffy in season 6.
Come on.
I think that's a confirm. I think that's a hard confirm. Okay. All right. Season 6, episode 7. Tara will take action against Willow in retaliation for the memory wipe in season 6, episode 8. So, meaning in this episode we just watched that Tara's going to take some kind of action against Willow in retaliation. Is breaking up with somebody retaliation?
No, but I think that moving out is taking an action against.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not retaliation, but it is like I am making an action in my life that is counter to your desires of what I would choose.
Right. Yes. It's definitely in response. It's the word retaliation, I think, that's like kind of catching me just a tiny bit. But
It is a breakup.
Yeah. Yeah. Just retaliation makes it sound like she's going to set fire to Willow's clothes or something.
Tara is a gentle character. I think this is about as petty
I'm not
as she
saying
gets.
she would do it. I'm saying that's what Michael would seem to have predicted, but never mind. I think we can confirm
I
that
need
one.
to
Confirm it.
I'd give Michael this one too.
Okay.
Mike, you need a memory spell, man, because you keep predicting these really literal predictions that have such a narrow interpretation. I mean, is somebody messing with your memory? You got to remember, these always come back to bite you when you're so specific.
All right. Dennis, did I miss any that you can see?
Not that I saw.
Okay.
I think you were good.
So with that, Michael, it seems like those were all confirmations. I don't think we denied anything. So your scores should go up. And so they have. Your overall accuracy has gone from a 62.72 all the way up to a 63.1.
What?
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my God, the decimal points. How much fun.
And for season 6, you've gone up from 65.52 all the way up to 69.7.
Beautiful.
Still shy of that 70 to get you the C average, but
Well, here's
Season's
my
still young,
predictions
baby.
for the rest of season 6 here. I predict that Willow and Tara won't get back together in season 6. Buffy will hide her relationship with Spike in the next episode, season 6, episode 9. Even though that's fun, it is not cool. Everyone knows about it. So that'll be a secret for as long as she can make it, but at least one episode.
Here's what's going to happen. We're going to argue about the word relationship.
Oh, you think so? Oh, Jesus.
No, I'm just kidding.
You think you say that. Then
Then I do it.
Memento Dennis will just, argue this however he feels. Willow is not going to stop casting spells. Like, this is not stopping her. I think we're going to get crazier spells. But I'm just going to say, she's not going to stop. Willow's going to keep the cat. I actually think Tara should keep the cat, but I think Willow's going to keep the cat because we like it. Like having the cat around the house. And then super prediction, Buffy and Spike will break up in season 6. This is not a relation for the ages.
Boom.
Should I say Buffy and Spike's relationship is not for the ages? No, I'm saying Buffy and Spike break up in season 6. I'm making it like specific and easier to cut.
All right. Well, I think that's it then.
Until we tabula rasa again. Yeah.
Maya, because we know where to find your book, how would you describe your comics?
How would I describe my comics? Wretchedly personal. No, I write a lot about, I identity, particularly gender identity and sexual identity. And then also just like I do a lot of auto-bias stuff or memoir stuff that is thoughts about things. Lately, I've done some that are kind of environmental focused, things about single-use plastics and litter and like recycling and those sorts of topics. But I also write fiction every now and then. I'm actually working on a script of a fantasy story right now. Who knows if it will ever see the light of day, but perhaps. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. I love this episode. And I can't wait to listen to the rest of your season 6 episodes when they're released.
Thank you. We always enjoy having you on.
Yeah, you're an oft-requested guest. So this is great.
Yeah.
I am so honored. I have never been requested back on any podcast except this one.
We'll have to get you on again in season 7 or maybe later this season. Who knows?
I do have a favorite season 7 episode. I cannot remember the name of it, but I will look it up and I will email it to you.
All right. Sounds good. And I've been Dennis St. John. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dennis Comics. That's Dennis with one N and Comics with an X. That's also my .com, DNISCUMIX. You can get my mini comics, and I'm putting out comics pretty often on my Patreon, which is just my name, Dennis St. John, DNISSTJOHN. Thank you, one
They're
and all.
all weird dream comics now.
Yeah, I've been doing a series of dream comics during
Those
quarantine.
have been great. I've really been enjoying those.
Thank you. So thank you all, one and all, for listening and talking to us at Buffy Virgin. We love to hear from you. Don't forget to rate us and review us and subscribe. Smash that like button, blah-de-blah. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Buffy Virgin Pod and Instagram Buffy Virgin. You can check us out at buffyvirgin.com. Reach out. We love to hear from you, and we'll see you in hell.